The battlefield is silent now, but the echoes of what happened will haunt every corner of Westeros. Friendships are shattered, loyalties questioned, and the cost of power has never been clearer. In Episode 6, Nothing is the Same, and the Aftermath will change everything you thought you knew about the Seven Kingdoms. The moment the battle ended, the air felt heavier than ever. Smoke curled from the broken walls of castles, and the ground was littered with the remnants of swords, shields, and fallen knights. Every face tells a story of shock, grief, or anger. And you can almost feel the weight of every loss pressing down on the survivors. The episode doesn't waste time showing that no victory comes without a price. Even those who survive the chaos are not untouched. Their minds carry the memory of screams, the sting of betrayal, and the bitter taste of victories that feel hollow. Betrayal is the silent killer here. It isn't always on the battlefield. In quiet halls, whispered words and hidden agendas shape what comes next. Characters who once stood shoulder to shoulder are now forced to question every promise, every glance, every alliance. Trust has become fragile, like ice over a deep river. One wrong step could send everything crashing into darkness. As we follow the aftermath, the camera or the story lingers on the faces of key players, showing the emotional cost that goes beyond physical wounds. Some characters retreat into themselves, grappling with guilt or regret, wondering if they could have prevented the tragedies. Others are fueled by anger, seeking justice, revenge, or the chance to regain control. What Episode 6 makes clear is that every action has consequences, and choices made in the heat of battle will ripple outward, touching everyone in ways that are impossible to ignore. No one can remain the same after what has happened, and this transformation is central to understanding the new balance of power in the Seven Kingdoms. Beyond the personal struggles, the episode paints a picture of political fallout. Nobles and leaders survey the ruins of their authority, trying to rebuild while watching others gain power in the chaos. Alliances shift like sand beneath stormy waters, and old enemies may find themselves in strange new partnerships just to survive. There is a tension that runs through every interaction, a sense that while one battle has ended, the war for influence, respect, and survival is far from over. The aftermath is not just about who lives and who dies. It is about who will rise, who will fall, and who will be left behind when the dust settles. One of the most compelling elements of this section is how the episode focuses on subtle, quiet moments. A look exchanged between former allies can carry more weight than a clash of swords. A single word whispered in the hall can change the course of a kingdom. The story reminds viewers that power isn't just taken in battle, it is manipulated. In shadows, in secrets, and in the spaces where no one is watching. Every character must navigate this new reality with caution. Those who underestimate the emotional and political consequences of the day's events may find themselves unprepared for the next wave of challenges. Episode 6 uses these moments to build tension and anticipation, ensuring the audience feels the full scope of the aftermath, not just in terms of action, but in terms of human experience. By the end of this first section, it becomes clear that the true story of Episode 6 lies in its impact. The battles are over, but the scars remain. Families are broken, ambitions are tested, and the fragile threads of trust hang by a thread. The episode sets the stage for future conflicts and dramatic confrontations, and the consequences we see here will echo through the rest of the season. Every choice, every loss, and every act of betrayal will shape the journey of these characters and the fate of the Seven Kingdoms itself. The aftermath isn't just a moment, it is the foundation for everything that comes next, and it leaves viewers on edge, eager to see how each character will respond when the next challenge arrives. In the quiet moments after the chaos, the true fractures begin to appear, not on the battlefield, but among those who were once considered allies. Bonds forged through shared struggles are now tested under the weight of fear, suspicion, and ambition. Every glance, every unspoken word seems loaded with meaning. Characters who once trusted each other implicitly now pause before speaking, measuring loyalty against self-interest. it becomes clear that survival in the Seven Kingdoms is no longer about strength alone. It is about reading intentions, predicting betrayal, and knowing when to strike. Old friendships are strained as subtle rivalries emerge. Even the most steadfast allies are forced to ask themselves whether the person standing beside them is genuinely on their side or merely waiting for the right moment to take advantage. The episode carefully shows that the aftermath of one battle is often the prelude to an even more complex struggle, where emotional intelligence and cunning are as deadly as the sharpest blade. The story spends time revealing the undercurrents of power that most viewers might have missed at first glance. Secret meetings behind closed doors, brief exchanges that hint at conspiracies, and reactions that seem almost casual all point to deeper manipulations at work. Each character has a hidden agenda, and episode 6 teases the audience with glimpses of what might be coming. A character who appears grieving or withdrawn might actually be calculating the next move, and someone who seems submissive could hold the key to a future reversal of fortune. This tension creates a sense of unpredictability. Nothing in the aftermath is straightforward, and the narrative encourages viewers to question appearances. Trust is a fragile currency here, one that can be gained or lost in a heartbeat. And the episode's subtle attention to detail ensures that every interaction carries the potential for dramatic consequence. Even more intriguing is how episode 6 explores the personal cost of these shifting loyalties. Characters are forced to confront uncomfortable truths about themselves and the people around them. Guilt lingers for choices made in the heat of the moment, and regret gnaws at those who feel they failed their allies or loved ones. At the same time, ambition drives others to seize opportunities that the chaos has created. The contrast between those who are consumed by remorse and those who are fueled by self-interest highlights the moral complexity of the Seven Kingdoms. No character is entirely innocent or entirely corrupt. The aftermath exposes the shades of gray that define human behavior when power, fear, and survival collide. The episode emphasizes that the consequences of betrayal are not just external, they shape the inner lives of every surviving character, changing how they think, feel, and act in ways that will reverberate through future events. Political maneuvering begins to take center stage as episode 6 unfolds. Leaders and nobles assess the changing landscape, trying to determine who holds influence and who is vulnerable. Territories that once seemed secure now appear precarious, and alliances are weighed carefully against potential threats. The subtle interplay between power, ambition, and survival becomes a driving force of the narrative. Characters who may have been secondary before are suddenly crucial, their choices potentially tipping the balance of power. The aftermath is more than a consequence of battle. It is a test of strategy, patience, and foresight. As the episode progresses, it becomes evident that every action, even a seemingly small one, can have massive repercussions in the web of political intrigue that binds the Seven Kingdoms together. By the end of this section, the audience understands that episode 6 is not simply about what happened on the battlefield. It is about what follows, the hidden conflicts that simmer beneath the surface, and the delicate equilibrium that governs relationships in a world where loyalty is earned, not given. Each character's next move will be influenced by this period of uncertainty, and every decision carries weight. The aftermath is a crucible that tests morals, ambitions, and the very essence of trust. The story makes it clear that the events of one episode can ripple outward, affecting alliances, ambitions, and destinies in ways no one could predict. In this turbulent period, even the smallest misstep could unravel carefully laid plans, and the Seven Kingdoms are left teetering on the edge of a new, uncertain order where only the shrewd, adaptable, and ruthless will survive. As the dust settles, it becomes painfully clear that the true dangers are no longer just on the battlefield. Episode 6 shifts focus to the shadows that have been gathering since the beginning, revealing that the aftermath has left openings for new threats to emerge. Characters who were once powerless or overlooked now find opportunities to assert influence. while those who thought themselves secure realize how exposed they truly are. Every broken alliance, every misjudged loyalty, and every act of vengeance has created cracks in the walls of power, and those cracks are enough for cunning and ambitious figures to slip through. The story carefully builds tension by showing that danger is rarely straightforward. It doesn't always roar across the field with steel and fire. It often creeps quietly, masked by courtesy, cloaked in loyalty, or hidden behind a friendly smile. Episode 6 masterfully illustrates that in the Seven Kingdoms, vulnerability can be invisible, and a seemingly safe position may be the most precarious of all. The episode also highlights the psychological toll of constant threat. Characters who survive the recent battles are forced to contend not only with physical injuries, with the lingering anxiety of what comes next. Fear has a quiet, corrosive presence that shapes decision-making. A leader who hesitated in the heat of combat might now hesitate again, but this time under the pressure of a threat they cannot see clearly. Conversely, those who are clever and unburdened by moral hesitation can exploit uncertainty to their advantage, positioning themselves in ways that shift the balance of power. Every glance, every overheard conversation, and every seemingly minor event carries the potential to spark conflict. Episode 6 emphasizes that in a world as unforgiving as the Seven Kingdoms, vigilance is survival, and misreading even a single move can have catastrophic consequences. Subtlety becomes the currency of survival in this aftermath. Characters who remain quiet, who observe rather than act immediately, often hold the advantage. Small gestures, hidden signals, and coded words are all part of the new battlefield. The narrative uses these elements to deepen tension, showing viewers that the game of power is no longer fought with swords alone. It is fought with strategy, foresight, and sometimes ruthless patience. One character may appear insignificant in the aftermath, but careful attention reveals that they hold a piece of information, a secret alliance, or a weapon that could change everything. This shift in focus from overt action to covert maneuvering adds a layer of complexity to the story, reinforcing that the events of Episode 6 are as much about what is unseen as what is visible. Episode 6 also explores how these new threats intersect with personal motivations and moral dilemmas. Ambition is no longer tempered by loyalty, and revenge is no longer guided by honor alone. Characters are faced with impossible choices: act and risk betrayal, or wait and risk being left behind. The narrative tension comes from the interplay of these decisions. Some embrace the chaos, seeing it as a chance to rise, while others are paralyzed by doubt, unsure of who to trust. Every action taken in this period of uncertainty carries double weight because the consequences are unpredictable, and the story highlights that mistakes can be fatal, while shrewd moves can lead to unprecedented power. Episode 6 does not shy away from showing that the Seven Kingdoms are a place where every decision matters, and survival depends on both courage and cunning. By the end of this section, the audience sees that the aftermath is not merely a pause in the story. It is a crucible where hidden dangers rise, unseen threats plot, and new power players test their limits. Characters must navigate an environment filled with deception, subtle power plays, and unexpected challenges. Episode 6 reveals that the landscape of the Seven Kingdoms has shifted dramatically. The old hierarchies are crumbling, new actors are emerging, and the next moves are uncertain and perilous. The tension is no longer about who won or lost the last battle. It is about who will adapt, who will exploit the weaknesses exposed in the chaos, and who will fall victim to the dangers that thrive in the shadows. The episode leaves viewers with the clear understanding that in this fractured world, the true fight is only just beginning, and the consequences of inaction can be as deadly as the consequences of a poorly chosen strike. While the political shifts and new threats dominate the external landscape of the Seven Kingdoms, Episode 6 also turns inward, examining the emotional and moral fallout that none of the characters can escape. Survival has left deep scars, not all of which are visible. For some, the agony of loss becomes a constant companion. They carry the weight of fallen comrades, destroyed homes, and the knowledge that even a hard-won victory came at a terrible cost. This episode gives time to these quiet moments, showing that the true aftermath is not only physical but psychological. Characters wrestle with guilt over choices they were forced to make, questioning whether a different decision might have spared lives or prevented betrayal. The story reveals that in the Seven Kingdoms, bravery is inseparable from consequence, and courage often comes hand in hand with torment. Those who appear strong are often struggling with doubt. Realizing that even heroes are not immune to the haunting memory of what they could not prevent, Episode 6 emphasizes moral ambiguity in ways that are subtle yet powerful. No one is entirely good or entirely evil. Each decision exists in shades of gray, influenced by circumstance, survival instincts, and personal desire. A character who once seemed virtuous may now show a willingness to cross lines previously unthinkable, while someone considered ruthless might reveal a capacity for compassion in moments of vulnerability. These shifts create a sense of unpredictability, where alliances are not only political but deeply emotional, bound by shared trauma and common goals. The aftermath forces characters to confront who they really are when stripped of safety and certainty. The choices made in these moments are rarely clear-cut, and Episode 6 allows the audience to see the complex inner struggles that define every surviving figure. It is a powerful reminder that the Seven Kingdoms is a world where morality is fluid, and survival often requires a careful balance between honor and pragmatism. The emotional consequences also extend to relationships, both romantic and familial. Bonds that once seemed unbreakable are tested under the weight of grief, fear, and suspicion. Characters are forced to navigate conversations that once would have been simple but are now charged with tension, resentment, or unresolved anger. Family ties, friendships, and romantic entanglements are all impacted, revealing how personal dynamics can influence larger political outcomes. Episode 6 underscores that in the aftermath, personal decisions can have far-reaching effects, shaping the course of events far beyond the immediate moment. Characters must decide whether to let emotions drive them toward rash action or to exercise restraint, knowing that missteps may carry consequences for entire kingdoms. The moral reckoning that the episode explores is as intense as any battle, demonstrating that the cost of war is not only measured in blood and steel, but also in the human spirit. Even those who appear detached from personal connections are not immune. Strategic leaders, hardened warriors, and silent observers all face moments of introspection. Episode 6 highlights that even the most calculating individuals must confront the impact of their actions and others and on themselves. Reflection becomes a form of survival. Understanding the emotional currents of allies and enemies alike is essential for predicting behavior, avoiding mistakes, and maintaining influence. This focus on the inner life of characters deepens the story, showing that the Seven Kingdoms are shaped as much by the hearts and minds of its people as by the clash of armies. The emotional aftermath weaves together with political and strategic realities, creating a layered, immersive experience that challenges the audience to consider not just what happened, but why it matters. By the end of Section 4, it is clear that Episode 6 is as much about internal battles as external ones. The physical destruction and shifting power dynamics set the stage, but the emotional and moral reckoning defines the true cost of what has transpired. Every character must grapple with the consequences of their choices, confront their vulnerabilities, and navigate a world where loyalty, love, and honor are tested to the breaking point. The aftermath is no longer a backdrop. It is a living, breathing force that shapes decisions, colors interactions, and determines who can rise and who will falter. Episode 6 leaves viewers with the understanding that surviving the battle is only the beginning. Thriving in its wake requires resilience, insight, and an unwavering awareness of the human consequences that echo far beyond the battlefield. As the dust of recent battles settles, Episode 6 shifts attention from immediate consequences to the looming storms on the horizon. The aftermath leaves characters at crossroads, where every choice made now has the potential to redefine the future of the Seven Kingdoms. What stands out most in this episode is how it uses subtle hints and foreshadowing to suggest that even greater conflicts are approaching. Small gestures, fleeting glances, and moments of hesitation carry enormous weight, signaling shifts in loyalty, the birth of new rivalries, and the potential for betrayal that could ignite in the next episodes. The story emphasizes that survival in Westeros is never permanent. Even those who appear victorious must remain vigilant, because every action invites a reaction, and every unguarded moment can be exploited. The audience is reminded that power is fragile, and the cracks left in the aftermath of Episode 6 are openings that clever and ruthless figures are eager to exploit. The narrative carefully plants seeds of speculation throughout the episode, teasing which characters might rise to power and who could face downfall. Strategic minds are at work, assessing vulnerabilities and opportunities created by recent chaos. Some characters will take advantage of weakened rivals to expand influence, while others may consolidate their positions quietly, building alliances that are invisible but formidable. Episode 6 does not provide all the answers. Instead, it invites viewers to think ahead, piece together the puzzle, and anticipate the next moves in a world where strategy is often more deadly than steel. The subtle interplay of personal ambition and political calculation ensures that the aftermath is not static. It is a dynamic, ever-shifting battlefield where foresight and cunning determine survival.